Hello and welcome to Love as a Business Strategy, a podcast that brings humanity to the workplace. We're here to talk about business, but we want to tackle topics that most business leaders shy away from. We believe that humanity and love should be at the center of every successful business. I'm your host, Jeff Ma, and as always, I want to have conversations with real people and hear real stories about the real world. And one of my personal missions in doing the work that I do is to make an impact to the world and really to our communities, to make a real change. And I've always believed that this philosophy of love that we talk about, it belongs in all workplaces, but especially so in government and in local government. I'm joined today by Paulina Valero, who is the Community Engagement Manager for the city of Sugar Land, which happens to be the city in which I proudly live. And Paulina has been working in local government over the last 6 years, developing and transforming programs aimed at engaging, educating, and empowering the community. And Paulina, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have you here. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm very good. I'm a little nervous, but I'm very excited and honored to be here. I'm looking forward for a conversation with you about it. And yeah, I'm ready. I'm very good. How are you?
It's so awesome to have you. And I'll kick it off first with just a little bit. I just want to hear a little bit about you. I have a lot of questions for you around the local government piece and all that other stuff.
Sure.
But for you, what is your passion and what brought you to the role you play today?
I've always been since the start of my career in either a nonprofit or a local government. And I think that started since I guess from the moment I realized I wanted to go to grad school. And I focused a lot of my studies on women and women's rights and human rights internationally. And I have a master's degree in diplomacy and international relations. And during my master's degree, I took an internship in DC at the Tahrir Justice Center, and they're a national nonprofit. And they provide free legal services to women and girls who are fleeing gender-based violence. And after I graduated, I got a job with them here in Houston, which is why I moved here. And I was there for a couple of years. And then I moved to another nonprofit, and then I moved here. So it's always been something that's, I don't know if this sounds very cheesy or not, but like it's something that it's been more than just myself. It's something larger or something hopefully for the greater good. I've never really thought of myself as like a corporate executive in any way. At one point, I wanted to be a lawyer and, defend human rights and, things like that. So it's always been my interest to work for something for the greater good, to make a bigger impact, for the work that I'm doing to mean something for someone else other than just me. I think that's what got me here. I really didn't know that local government could be that, or I guess I didn't think about it until I was here. And yeah, it's been, I think that's what brought me here, something that's more than just me, I guess.
Yeah. Not cheesy at all. I share almost the exact same mission in what I'm doing, so I love to hear it.
Cool.
I part of the reason I think I'm so excited about this conversation, though, is because bringing humanity to the workplace is the motto that I live by and my colleagues live by, our mission. And the workplace, when anyone talks about a workplace, you automatically go to a corporate kind of business environment. And even if you're thinking outside the box, you'll move to like retail and service industries and stuff like that. We don't often include government in this workplace conversation. In fact, when you really think about it, like I can picture what it's like to work at at Uber. I can picture what it's like to work at, a grocery store. Very few of us can picture what it's like to work at local government or in government, as a not as a politician, not as,
Right.
but like just in government. And this government does not run itself. It is
Right.
a workplace of people
By
doing
people.
the work. And so I guess I'll start here. What's it like working, like I just start there. Like, what's it like working in local government?
Yeah, it's very interesting you say that, because I don't think or at least my personal view of it, my personal take is that it's hard to see it from the outside, especially, from the constituent side. If you're a resident of a certain city, state, federal, in all those government entities, it always seems like it's this obscure, hard to access, hard to reach entity, and you hardly stop to think about that it's made of people just like me, and it's not there's not a scheme or anything going on, like it's all of us work here because we care about giving back and we care about the community. Like otherwise we would be working in corporate, like it's a I think it has to be a certain type of personal value for one to want to work for government or local government, and it's funny how you hear this about like the importance of staying engaged and local government being like your first line of representation, really, in terms of what you want for yourself, for your family, from the people who represent you. And that's exactly it. It is different because we're not elected officials, but we're in the behind the scenes, doing the roads and the parks and the and things like that. And so it's definitely a very interesting environment and dynamic, because ultimately we do work for the public, and it's, I think, for the most part in my role, what I would want is for people to look at us as people, and not anything else, like I was just saying, I'm just live down the street, it's just me. And for them to trust their government because it is run, by other people who are just humans. It's just other people, who happen to care about, the community and the greater good.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. It's very hard at times. Sometimes it gets easier, but for the most part, it's like on the go, and constant, changing of, kind of like for everything, you have to like be ready to hit the ground running, and you owe yourself to the public, so you have to be ready to respond, which is always up. It's always a thing. It's always ever present.
Yeah. I think when we think of public servants, we don't wrap everybody into that label enough, because you're all public servants. And I think the way I look at this, and the reason I connect this so strongly to love as a business strategy, is that if you look at the government and all of us, everybody who's listening, and the communities, as one large business ecosystem, there's a reality in the sense that, there's taxpayer money going into one place, and it's being spent on the work being done by you and your colleagues.
Yeah.
And that creates really interesting dynamics, right? Where because you're public servants, there's this feeling that, you work for me, like you work, and there's a truth to that, but there's also at times mindsets and behaviors that kind of you have to deal with, I assume. For instance, just going up to City Hall and making a complaint because we're entitled to retribution for our problems, because we pay
Right.
the taxes that pay your paychecks. And I think that kind of dialogue, that kind of thing is where I can see so much of like love as a business strategy entering the equation.
Hmm.
If we all have a little more empathy for the work that we all do together and own
Yeah.
up to our own side of the equation as well,
Yeah.
because government is in a lot of ways villainized, and kind of seen as the bad guy in so
Hmm.
many contexts. Have you
Yeah.
you have stories of like experiencing that firsthand, or you mentioned it's hard. Like what kind of things have you seen in that light?
Um, so in my role, it's of course very outward facing, right? It's very external. Like I'm an external department, and like me myself, I'm out there. I'm meeting with this group of Sugarland leaders who are residents who were part of the program. We meet every month. They know my name, they know my face, they have my cell phone, and it's just a handful of people. And but we're also at HOA meetings. We host quarterly HOA meetings. We're out in community events and things like that. And so it's hard because you're the first line of defense. And I don't mean defense as in it's always confront. It's not always combative or anything like that. But like we're the face of it, right? And so for example, if I'm at an HOA meeting, if there's a complaint about the drainage study that was done, I don't know, a year ago, like what's up with that? And, so I take it, and then I go back, talk to colleagues, hey, what's up with this? Any updates? And I go back, But for the most part, when it's something super sensitive, then most of the time I found that people just want to be heard, even if whatever they are requesting or whatever they want can't be done. So sometimes it's just them feeling like they're seen, that they're valued, that they're being heard, the opportunity to just voice their beliefs, their concerns, what's important to them. And we're all here for that. And that's like, it's honestly that's my job. Like I welcome any and all conversations and feedback. And, with of course the understanding that we cannot accommodate every single one of them. It would be impossible. But our job is to give those spaces to people. And that's hard because you're there listening to sometimes these conversations are very uncomfortable. Sometimes that something is just not possible, and it's just the way that it is. And you have to, with the highest level of empathy and respect that you can, communicate to say, I hear what you're saying, I appreciate your concern, this is what it is, kind of situation. So that's the hard part, because it can feel like, even if I'm giving you the space to say what you need to say, like if there's nothing more to be done about XYZ, sometimes that's just the reality. So it's hard to.
And there's so much to connect there with just any human interaction across other businesses and other environments, where you're absolutely right. A lot of times we just want to be heard, and a lot of times that relationship isn't built because one side feels unheard, or is not heard, or is not acted upon when they feel like they should. And I feel like government, and this is probably just my own perspective or experience or bias, but it feels like government is something about government is especially stifling when it comes to that communication line, where we often make assumptions that, like, oh, well, if I complain to the government, nothing will happen. Or if I have to talk to the government, that's going to be a tedious process. Or, like compare it to going to the DMV, and like, it's just going to be a long line with no people who don't really care. Like, how much truth do you see in that? And why do you think, if it's not true, why do you think that comes across that way?
So there's there's
And
certainly certain things that we have to do in, a certain order, or like by the book, things like that. There's rules to be followed for any and all that we do. And so there's a lot of, steps and approvals, and there's that bureaucracy part of it for sure. But it is I don't know how much of it is just the getting used to or understanding what goes behind it, right?
Yeah.
It's never about I guess it's more of an awareness type of situation, because it does, I think that if people more understood what goes on behind the scenes, they would understand that, this is a process. This is how it's done. This are all the people that are involved in this. And I think that maybe it's a more of an awareness issue, where once you understand and once you see, then it becomes without it being too cumbersome or too long or too hard. We certainly do not want to create barriers to entry, right? Like that's the least that we want. We never want to do that. We realize that, we rely on the trust of the people to get things done. Otherwise, nothing would happen. Progress wouldn't be possible. So, there's this effort of being transparent about, certain things that we do, about the budget process,